Good evening. It is good to see y'all this evening. It really is. And
You stepped on some toes this morning.
yeah, I did. Apparently so.
Somebody crying about their toes.
You know, the way a preacher knows if the Sunday sermon, the AM sermon was effective is to look at the audience on Sunday night. You know, so that's okay. That's all right. We're going to be in Mark chapter 3. If you want to turn there, you know, a couple of brief things as you're turning to Mark chapter 3. Just, you know, as a reminder, if you can help out with greeting or building lockup or something like that, then if you could, get with Gary or Pam, or there's a sign-up sheet in the hallway to help doing that. All the guys that are here help out with services, but if you know a guy, and we all know you do, who maybe should help out, you know, a Christian man or a Christian young man who can help out with services, leading a prayer, maybe learning to do some song leading or do the communion talk, something like that, reach out to them and encourage them. Hey, I'd like to see you up there. I'd like to see you help. We as Christians have to step up. And I know that for a lot of people it can be uncomfortable, you know, but some guys need to get out of their comfort zone. And for the men who do help and work and labor in the service, you know, certainly appreciate you. And ladies, certainly appreciate y'all as well with the teaching and everything that you do for your support. I want to make sure that you know that you are appreciated, because, you know, as I would sit there and say to Rachel sometimes, you know, I'm the man, I'm the head of the house. And as some of you women have probably said, just like Rachel, I know you're the head of the house, but I'm the neck that turns the head, you know? So, yeah. And when she's not around, I like to say, you know, I run my house. I run my house. And then she'll walk in the room and it might be, I run the dishwasher, I run the vacuum, and, you know. So, you know, and one of the things that we have on Sunday mornings is the family prayer, where a man, he gets up, of course, as you know, and he leads a prayer for the families that are in the congregation. But not just that, you know, people who are single or whose family members have passed on, they're not excluded. They are part of the family of God and are included in that. And as is the whole family of God, not just here at Freetown Road, but all over the world, that we need to pray for each other. And so it got me thinking about families. And before we get over to Mark chapter 3, I just want to read something real quick from John chapter 7. Those that are in the John class will love this, because we haven't actually gotten to chapter 7 yet. So, preview. John chapter 7, beginning in verse 2, says, "Now the feast of the Jews, the feast of booths, was near. Therefore his brothers said to him," them talking to Christ, "Leave here and go into Judea, so that your disciples also may see your works which you are doing. For no one does anything in secret when he himself seeks to be known publicly. If you do these things, show yourself to the world." For not even his brothers were believing in him. Not even his brothers. Now, the word there, it's initially in reading the text, we're not sure as to what brothers they're talking about, because it's the same word that's used for kinsmen, you know, relatives, but it's also the same that's used for brethren, fellow believers in a community. And so we're not really sure as to what's going on. And so then we come back and we look at Mark chapter 3. In Mark chapter 3, verses 20 and 21, it says, "And he came home, and the crowd gathered again to such an extent that they could not even eat a meal. When his own people heard of this, they went out to take custody of him, for they were saying, he has lost his senses. He is out of his mind. And I was just thinking about family, and I wonder how many of us in this room have family members who think that we, being Christians, have just lost our minds. That we are just crazy. Now you might be lucky in the sense that there's no one that's ever felt that about you. But I know that there are some who have had family members who, being a Christian, it's, I don't really believe you. That type of thing. To where, with Christ, and we could look at some other context, and we will, his own brothers didn't believe him. But there came a point when they did. Over in Acts chapter 1, which we have for the upper room, it says, when they had entered the city, they went to the upper room where they were staying, that is, Peter and John, and James and Andrew, Philip and Thomas, Bartholomew and Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, and Simon the Zealot, and Judas the son of James. These all with one mind were continually devoting themselves to prayer along with the women and Mary, the mother of Jesus, and with his brothers. So we kind of get this idea that Christ, he wasn't a very popular kid. And imagine having Jesus as a brother. He's got the best story of his birth, and that he's the Son of God and all of this. But it's interesting that not even his brothers believe that. And it got me thinking about our own families, and like I said, as to how there may be some who don't even believe who we are as Christians. And so look at what he says, because remember, after the crucifixion, while they're waiting in Jerusalem, that's when they all believed. After he had performed all of these miracles that the Gospels record, after he has endured the persecution, after he has been crucified, and resurrected, that's when they all believe. It's not until after the fact. And look at what he says to them in Mark chapter 3. So prior to all of this, when they're not believing, in Mark 3, beginning in verse 31, then his mother and his brothers arrived. So we're still at this house where they couldn't even eat a meal, and the people thought that he had lost his senses. He was out of his mind. Then his mother and his brothers arrived, and standing outside, they sent word to him and called him. A crowd was sitting around him, and they said to him, "Behold, your mother and your brothers are outside looking for you." Answering them, he said, "Who are my mother and my brothers?" Looking about at those who were sitting around him, he said, "Behold, my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of God, he is my brother and sister and mother." Now, when we put all of this together, we have, even though Mary, the mother of Jesus, who had an angel speak to her, still didn't believe for whatever reason. She's out there with the brothers who don't believe in him. She's out there with the people who think that he lost his mind. And so he looks around at the people who are there, the people who want to do God's will, and he says, "This is my mother. This is my brother. This is my sister." And I realize, again, that we might not all have people in our family, even one or two, who say, you being a Christian, that should take second place to us. We are your family. But the reality is that even Christ, to those who didn't believe him, even his own flesh and blood, that's not my family. There are people, sure, that I'm related to by blood, but they're not my family. Why? Because they're not doing God's will. They don't believe that I am who I say I am. There are times in life when we're going to encounter people who don't believe that we are who we say we are. But we've all heard the phrase, the proof is in the pudding, right? It's the idea that they might not believe us based off of what we say. It might be after the fact that we have to prove ourselves to them, just as Jesus proved himself to his family and to the rest of the world. And sometimes that can be difficult. But the one thing that you can do in those difficult moments is look around at the people in this room. Say, no matter what, mothers or brothers or cousins or aunts or uncles, or no matter what they may think of me, this is my family. Now, on my side of the family, I'm the only Christian. And so that's difficult. But at the same time, I know that this is my family. That when I die, if I am blessed to be judged as faithful and righteous, that I will be with my family. This is what's most important. It was what was most important to Christ, and it should be what's most important to us. Really, all I wanted to say tonight was just to encourage you, to encourage each other. We are all struggling in one way or another, or we know someone who is. Be the proof, be the example that others would have you to be. And rely on each other. Weep with those who weep, rejoice with those who rejoice. Because really, this is all we have. Come what may, this is our family. I hope that you're encouraged in the week. I hope that you go forward and call each other, talk to each other, see if someone needs something. Call someone up and just pray over the phone with them. One of the things, and I would encourage you to do this because it really will change your perspective of the people that you worship with. Set aside some time during the week to come up here. If you don't have a key, call someone that does. And come up here and sit in the pews and pray for the person who normally sits there. That might sound crazy. Might take a little bit. But if you see, if you know who sits in this pew on Sunday mornings, then you sit there and you pray for that person. And then you move to the next person. And then you move to the next person. Might take quite a while, depending on how long you pray. But I guarantee you it will change your perspective of how you see that person and how you interact with them at worship. I just want to encourage you again to be an encouragement. Be a Barnabas. If there's anything at all that you need, anything that we can do or I can do, or if it's not me and it's someone else, that's fine, then please let us know. We're going to stand and sing our song.